Hello, all you scaredy cats and kittens, and welcome to the Two Scaredy Cats Podcast, where we talk about all things strange, unusual, and paranormal. We're your hostess with the mostess. I'm Stacy.
And I'm Kara.
So, Kara, did you do anything this past weekend? The weather was really bad because it snowed. I forgot. Did you do anything?
I went back to Otherworld on Monday.
Oh, you did? What'd you do?
For another photo shoot.
Was it just one person or a group of people or what?
It was just one person. It was like an Easter shoot, so we're trying to do it early.
Was it crowded?
No, we went on Monday. Like early in the day. I wanted to ensure there was like no one there.
Gotcha.
Or, I mean, there were some people there, obviously, but it was way more chill.
Oh, that's good.
Definitely recommend going there.
It was crazy last time you went.
Yeah, it was very intense. And they're not requiring masks now. So that would have been nicer. Wouldn't have to watch that altercation.
Yeah, really. The fight break out over the mask situation.
Yeah.
Oh, Sam and his friends went to go see the Batman on Friday night.
Oh, I went and saw the Batman.
Did you? So I had to...
We went and saw it Friday also.
Did you? So I had to take him and his buddies in the snow.
Did they like the movie?
Oh, yeah, they liked it. They said it was pretty... They said it was really good. Although I'm having a hard time picturing Robert Pattinson make a good Batman.
I don't know. I think he's good.
And, I think after the whole Twilight thing, it's like, I don't know. It's just hard to get my head around it.
The weird thing is there's like some of the bad guys are the people from Teen Wolf. So it's like really weird. It's like, I don't know. It was like memes going around about it. I thought it was really funny. Well, you haven't seen it yet, have you?
No, I have not. I was thinking about seeing it with him, but it's like 3 hours long, and I didn't want to...
It was very, very, very long, but I like... The Riddler was interesting as a character, that's all I'll say.
Yeah, don't ruin it, because I do want to see it.
He's a live streamer? He live streams. So that's
okay. That's that's making it more modern, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's how I just thought it was funny that he live streamed, and like just read the comments of his live stream. It's pretty funny.
Interesting.
There's a lot of memes about that part of the movie. It's not like
I still need to go see that. But other than that, I don't think we did much because it was so cold and we really couldn't do anything yet. Oh, we ordered some new chairs for the patio though to go with our little couch. All right. So anyway. This week we have, I'm going to be talking about the Wold Newton Triangle, and Kara will be telling us about the Bell Witch and
the Bell Witch haunting.
Oh, sorry. Yes, the Bell Witch.
It's one of the most famous hauntings in the U.S.,
I know.
apparently.
Down in Tennessee. We have to go check that out sometime.
Have you heard about it? Yeah. I really want to go and check out the cave. The cave, that has nothing to do with it, even though...
I know. But everybody acts like it does, because it's
they're like,
property.
Oh, yeah, still some spooky stuff going on.
All right.
But, yeah, it's pretty wild,
Is it?
The story of the Bell Witch. But I guess we'll talk about that now. The Bell Witch haunting, John and Lucy Bell were farmers in Adams, Tennessee around 1803. From 1817 to 1821 was when the family experienced most of the attacks by the spirit.
Ooh, spooky.
Yeah, they're spooky. The entity could speak, it could affect the environment around it, and it could shapeshift.
Ooh, that's scary.
In 1894, Martin V. Ingram published the book called The Authentic History of the Bell Witch, which is like what most people refer to when they refer to this whole thing. Mm-hmm. It was like the account, the alleged account.
Oh, okay.
There are lots of controversy over the book, but it is considered a great folklore study and an accurate representation of the beliefs of the region in the 19th century. The entity's name was believed to be Kate after it would respond to the name. It would respond like positively when it was referred to as Kate.
Okay.
Most of the activity centered around the youngest daughter, Betsy, and the father. So the legend begins sometime in 1817 when John Bell saw a dog-like creature on his property. The only thing weird about it was that it had the head of a rabbit.
Oh, so that there was you go. We gotta watch out for those dog-like
very weird
creatures. Yep, you gotta watch out for them.
He shot at the animal, but it disappeared. Just like poof.
Vanished.
Gone. He was like a little shooken, but he's like, maybe I just kind of hallucinated that or something. John's son also saw a bird of extraordinary size perching on a fence, and he threw something at it to scare it off. And then this is when they started hearing knocking. They would hear knocking and like loud bangs going on outside of the house for like a while, and then all of a sudden it was becoming inside the house. They would hear it on the doors and in the walls inside.
That's not good.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yep.
They would hear gnawing sounds, like rats were chewing on their beds at night.
Now, with the knocking, when you were looking up all your information, did it do like, sometimes they'll do like 3 knocks or whatever, or was it just like a continuous knocking, do you know?
I do not. It didn't like refer to how many knocks. It just kind of said that there was
knocking going on. Got ya.
Knocking on the doors and the walls.
Oh, on the door also.
Just,
oh, okay.
So
I thought
it would
it was
be
just
like
the walls.
Different areas. Nah. The chains they would hear like chains rattling on the ground, which is a little weird. John Bell began experiencing paralysis of his mouth, which he claimed was a part of it.
But that could be anything. I mean, that could be
I know.
like a stroke.
He's old. He was
okay.
old around this time. He was like probably like 65.
Okay, so he was an older dude. Got it.
Mm-hmm. The entity began pulling hair, scratching the children, and specifically with Betsy, it would slap and pinch and stick her with needles.
Ouch.
Like pins. Yeah.
Huh.
The entity really did not like Betsy specifically. The entity would recite scripture. What? So now it would like start interacting with them. Yeah, that's the weird part.
Okay,
it would like
that's the weirdest thing it would
from
pick
the Bible.
Up. Yeah, out of everything it decides to recite the Bible.
That's why people were like, "What the heck?"
That's strange. Yeah, that's a little weird.
So the Bells are like, "What the hell?" So they end up reaching out to a family friend. Originally, they were kind of like keeping it on the DL just because,
right? Because
he's
when
an
people
older,
he's
an older family.
Then.
So, and then he was part of the church, and you didn't want to be like, yeah, I got some crazy spirits going on in our house. Yep. So he was a little hesitant to like go around and tell people, which makes sense for the time.
Yep.
But he reached out to a family friend named James Johnston for help. So James Johnston was like, okay, I will come check this out, but I want to spend the night. And he brings his wife, and him and his wife spend the night inside of their house. And he is woken up in the middle of the night by the entity. And he would refer to the entity as a spirit that was referred to in the Bible. So, like, they're thinking, like, crazy demon stuff, I guess.
Oh, okay.
The spirit allegedly slapped him in the face that night.
Okay, that's a little weird.
And the entity would often claim that it hated John Bell and it wanted to kill him and hoped he died. Like,
wow, that's pretty strong.
It did not like John Bell, and it did not like Betsy Bell, the daughter.
Did they ever find out why it had such a hatred? Did they do something to piss it off, or was
I don't know. It's weird
some kind of squabble
the way it
over
acts.
The land. Okay.
Well, here we're gonna get into that because so the word of the haunting starts to spread because this guy's like, whoa, we should need to bring the church in or something because this is way out of our league. Because he thought it was a hoax at first, the friend that came over. So the more people who knew about the entity, the stronger its presence began to be in the house. It would become like way more sentient. People passing through would actually stop by and try and get like glimpses of the ghost spirit or whatever, try and mess with it. And
nothing
people
like
would
having a bunch
stuff.
Of looky-loos coming through, messing with what you.
Yeah, they were like, I want to see this ghost. Let me see it.
Yeah.
And then it, as more people interact with it, the stronger it's gonna get.
Yep.
Because like the power of belief is a very strong thing that we've discussed about before in the podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
So now the spirit is making weird claims. So it says, I am a spirit. I was once very happy, but have been disturbed. And then the spirit would change its like story frequently about why it was there, which is really bizarre. It would be like, my bones were disturbed. I used to be resting here, and then people were like a Native American burial ground.
Right.
Yeah, and they would, which apparently there was near the property. So they were like, oh, that might be it. However, the most popular theory was that it was the spirit of Kate Batts, which remember we said they thought the spirit's name was Kate. That this person was an actual neighbor of John Bell's, and there was kind of like a little bit of discrepancy between the families. Okay. Like over slave ownership, something sketchy. Not great.
Oh, okay, nice.
They were already kind of suspicious of Kate Batts to begin with, because of how they were acting. But, you know, around that time, women were just kind of like, she's reading, she's evil. So who really knows? But the spirit was very fond of one of the children, Lucy Bell. Or I think that's the wife. Lucy's the wife. It would give Lucy fresh fruit, and it would sing hymns from the Bible to her, which is this is most like bizarre haunting really story bizarre. I've like read. So the spirit did not want Betsy, the daughter despised, to marry her childhood sweetheart. So much so that they would start to threaten Betsy and tell her, like, if you marry her, like, I will kill your whole family, kind of crazy stuff. So much so that Betsy was so genuinely scared that she called off the marriage because she was like afraid her family something would happen to her family. And then there are alleged claims. I don't know. A lot of people say this isn't true, but it is in the book that Andrew Jackson, the president of the United States at the time, catches wind of the story and visits the Bell house himself, bringing the military with him after he hears all the stories about the house. Okay.
What is he gonna do? Just have them shoot
I think he just wanted to see it for himself. Like, he wanted to see if... and then he brings, like, the entire, like, a big amount of military people with, like, a cart or whatever. And then, so the...
Wait a minute. I feel like Andrew Jackson, wasn't he in another one of our stories where he just showed up or he was friends with somebody that was... oh my gosh, which one?
It might have been.
Was it like Boston?
It's always weird when there's like
the Boston town.
Yeah,
yeah, or it was some president. It was one of the presidents. Remember where they stopped by and they were like there, which is kind of weird that somebody of power is always around when something weird's going on. If that makes any sense.
So the soldiers accompanying him. There's like a bunch of soldiers, and they're like camped out outside while he is inside. You know, talking to the spirit or whatever. I don't know what the hell. But they, like, start antagonizing the spirit a bit. One of them's like, oh, I bet you can't do anything. And then he gets attacked by the spirit, and then it freaks out all the soldiers, and he's like, okay, the soldier's like, please let us leave, and apparently they just left. Who knows if that's really true? Like I said, take it with a grain of salt. It's in the book, but...
Right. Yep.
There are, like, accounts... Well,
you can't really prove
that they have like a documentation of where he was in this time period, and they don't think he is. They don't think he was, but that's what the story says. So, people in the area believe it. I don't know. Just telling you that was a part of the story. So, as if that wasn't weird enough, John Bell's health takes a turn for the worst in 1820. And the voices continue to threaten him, telling him, oh, I'm gonna kill you, you're dead to me, all this crazy stuff. And then he dies on December 20th, 1820.
Ooh. So was it natural causes, or do they think it was
he had, like, seizures. He was having seizures up to this point. Oh. And there's some part of the book where they think that he was poisoned by the ghost, the spirit. I don't know.
Okay. Now, wait a minute. A ghost that has no arms or hands.
But remember, it has something. It could mess with the stuff. It could knock on the walls. Remember, okay. It's more of a poltergeist.
Pick up I know, but to pick up a spoon and put rat poisoning or whatever they used back then to kill, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Just kind of finding that one.
I'm just saying I don't know. No, but apparently during his funeral, the witch is said to be heard laughing and singing the entire funeral.
That's weird.
Like, okay. And then the witch tells the family she will be back in 7 years.
Why 7 years? What's significant with that? Do we know?
I don't know. But I really don't know. That's what the witch
told them. Says. All right, got ya.
And then the same knocking is heard again in 7 years by the children who were living there. Mm-hmm. But apparently the spirit was a lot nicer now. Okay. I guess John Bell, whatever it was about John Bell did not like him.
All right.
It's definitely the strangest haunting story with just, like, how it would recite, like, Bible verses.
Yeah, and like
but it was evil.
Right. It would feed the lady of the house fresh fruit and stuff and like he's wooing fruit? Like it's wooing her. So right. And then it would be all mean and evil to the other people. And then it didn't want the daughter to get married. Right. Yeah, and then like sticking her with pins and stuff. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's some terrible.
Yeah, that's some pretty messed up stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah, we should go to it's in Tennessee.
I know, it is. I've looked it up before because I thought about stopping there on our way to Gatlinburg, but it's not on the way to Gatlinburg, so that wouldn't work out. But yeah.
All right, what's your story for today?
Okay, so what I'm talking about today, and I don't know if anybody's heard of this before, because I certainly hadn't until I came upon it. It's called the Wold Newton Triangle. The Wold Newton Triangle is located in East Yorkshire in England and is centered around the village of Wold Newton, and it's between the cities of Scarborough and Bridlington. Sorry, I'm not very good with my English pronunciation, so please don't come at me for not pronouncing things right. I get a little tongue-tied, and yeah, I can't help it. So anyway, this region in general already had a ton of myths and legends that surrounded it, like nowhere else in England. There are many accounts of ghosts, mythical creatures, zombies, black skeletons, UFOs, meteorites, ley lines, what was the other thing? Oh, and werewolves. Okay, all these things are said to have happened or occur in this triangle area. So, and I forgot to say dragons. So, the first story I'm going to tell you about is actually a dragon that supposedly lived in the village or town of, I think it's pronounced Feely, but I'm not 100%, so please don't strangle me for not knowing how it's properly pronounced. But I'm almost sure it's Feely. So one day, the locals had managed to trick this dragon and make him eat a very sticky type of cake called a parkin. Apparently, it's this like very kind of dry cake that has like molasses or something in it, and so it makes it very like sticky to somebody that eats it. So they thought that if they gave it to the dragon, who by the way had been terrorizing this town and how supposedly eating the people or killing them and whatnot, so they thought that by giving him this sticky cake, it would help stop him from doing all this. So he eats the cake, and he was forced to jump into the sea because apparently the dragons jump into the sea to clean their teeth. Who knew? I guess they go in there and, gargle a little with it.
I've never heard that.
I've never heard it either. But apparently they like to jump into the sea and they gargle it around in there and they clean out their palate or whatever. So that's what he does. And while he's in there cleaning out his teeth in his mouth, the villagers ambush him and they drown the dragon. And according to the legend, that if you go, there's a place there called the Feely Briggs Rock, and it's near the town of Feely, that those are actually not rocks, they're the fossilized bones of the dragon. So, then we have another story about that there are stories of werewolves in this region also. And it's said to be inhabited by these werewolves. So, during the medieval times, people believed that packs of wolves would go around and dig up bodies from the graves and turn them into werewolves. So there's like all kinds of stories from what I was reading about people way back then that would see these wolf-like creatures digging up dead bodies, and like one person
what?
Yes, one person talked about how
they would dig up dead bodies.
Yes, like they would go to a freshly buried person and they'd go and dig it up and they'd pull like the head out of there and they'd be chewing on it and people would see them in the graveyards and that. Yeah, like there were lots of stories about werewolves running rampant in this general area since forever. But one of the most well-known and scariest stories happened in the 1960s. So one evening, a lorry driver, which in England is basically like a truck driver for us, was driving on this road called the B1249. Now, this is the main road that like runs, like the triangle that I was telling you about actually sits on top of this road, okay? So it's part of the triangle. So anyway, he's driving in his truck down the road, and this was in 1960, when in the darkness, he notices a pair of glowing red eyes, and he slows down his vehicle to see what it was, and when he does this, it's a wolf-like creature. Allegedly, this creature, he says, rushed his vehicle, slammed into his window and breaking the glass, trying to attack him. Luckily, he was able to speed away, and he knocked the beast off. So now let's fast forward to 2016. So in 2016 in August, there was a motorist by the name of Jenna Waller. It's either Waller or Whaler. I'm not certain, but anyway, her name. I'm sorry, it's Gemma. I forgot yeah. It's Gemma Waller or Whaler, and she was 24 years old, and she was driving along the same exact road that this happened on in the 1960s. And she saw a creature like a big dog, she said, but it was like bigger than her car. And it had this human-like face. And so she was like really freaked out about it. And there's also some other eyewitness accounts of people seeing these wolf-like creatures roaming around the countryside there and that. But it seems like a lot of the times, you know, they talk about how their eyes are red. And in the story about the truck driver guy that saw the wolf, he said at first he thought it was a car because of the way the eyes were shining like red. It looked like the taillights of a car. But upon further, when he evaluated it or looked at it better, he saw that it was actually the red eyes of this wolf-like creature. And there's also another story of a werewolf from a place called the Barmston Drain, which is in East Yorkshire also. And in 2016, there were rumors of sightings of an 8-foot creature described as being half man and half wolf with glowing red eyes. And in this eyewitness account, and here's what this witness said, it stood upright one moment, and the next it was down on all fours, running like a dog. It then stopped, reared up on its back legs before running down an embankment towards water. It vaulted 34 feet over to the other side and vanished upon an embankment and over a wall. It ran on both, 2 legs and 4 legs, and as if it had qualities of both a human and a wolf. Now, there's also a legend of a similar beast, and you're going to love this, called Old Stinker.
Old Stinker?
Old Stinker, yes. And
what the heck?
Yeah, this is funny. You're going to love this. So Old Stinker is said to be a great hairy beast with red eyes who got his name because of his bad breath. And he would run after cars like a dog.
Oh,
so
that's cute, though.
Right. So they said that there were so many sightings of Old Stinker from the town of Hull, which is where they think he originates from, and other nearby towns, that Old Stinker has become a viral sensation now. So in order to get to the bottom of Old Stinker, and this happened recently, it was like in 2016 that this all happened. So that in order to get to the bottom of Old Stinker and, his legend, the town decided to have an old-fashioned wolf hunt like back in the day with pitchforks and axes and, meeting in the town square or whatever to go hunt down the wolves. And try to have this hunt on the full moon of May 24th, 2016. So they had several people that came out together for this. One of them was like a historian. One was like town geologist, and a couple of other, people from around town, and they all met in the town square at St. Mary's graveyard. But unfortunately, they weren't able to find out the truth that night because the weather didn't cooperate with them, and they were forced to go home. So they couldn't have their pitchfork and, axe running around trying to find a werewolf in the forest moment. There was also some other interesting things that I came across about this particular area that kind of leads credence to some of the supernatural and, kind of the mystical things that happened there. Back in 1975, there was a meteor that struck just inside this triangle area, and it is documented on historical documents. Now, the story goes that the folks in the area were exposed to radiation from this meteorite, and that because of that, their DNA was altered, and some of these people became superhuman or became outstanding in some way, like, maybe they were like these really amazing like scientists, or like something like that, which I thought was kind of interesting. And they think that the meteor that struck there, it has something to do with the land there. There's also quite a few different areas there that were used for like pagan pagan worship and stuff back in the days. And there's actually a monolith in the graveyard where they were going to meet, that St. Mary's graveyard. There's a huge monolith that's been there since for thousands and thousands of years. They don't know how it got there. They don't know what it's for or why it's there, but they believe it was used during pagan rituals. And then eventually Christianity, when they came around, they were also using it for some of their things that they were doing. But there's also, interestingly enough, and we've talked about this before, that there are 5 ley lines that converge in the town of Redston, which is basically in the center of this triangle. Now, Redston is one of the most mystical and magical locations in England because it's the endpoint for 5 ley lines. And you know what they say, whenever there's ley lines, you have a lot of, magical, strange things happen. So that's one of the reasons why they think that maybe there's all these werewolf sightings in that particular area and stuff. And then finally, and there's a lot of stuff on this. There's supposedly also a black skeleton that runs around in this kind of weird area and all that too. But there was also one last ghost story that I wanted to tell it's kind of funny and kind of odd and kind of creepy kind of thing. So anyway, the last story is about a place in particular, and it's famous for being haunted, and it's the Burton Angus Hall. Now, this house was built by a gentleman by the name of Sir Henry Griffin in 1601 through 1610. Now, during the construction of this house, his youngest daughter, her name was Anne Griffin, fell in love with the building and was constantly, there around it. And she totally became obsessed with it, watching every detail that went into it and everything that happened to it. Unfortunately, she was attacked by some thieves in the park while it was being built. And on her deathbed, she relayed a wish to her sisters that she wanted her head to be placed inside of this hall. Okay. She also told him that if somebody attempted to remove her head from said building, she would make a terrible disturbance around the house and force its tenants out. So Anne finally died, and her sisters couldn't allow themselves to remove her head because, in order to get her head into the wall, they were going to have to chop it off. Well, none of the sisters had the guts to do it. So they basically buried her whole body, head and all, on the property without honoring her wish. So soon they started hearing strange noises in the walls of the hall where they're at, the Burton Angus Hall. And so they realized that it was their dead sister from, beyond, letting them know, hey, you didn't follow my wishes, please do so. So they immediately dug her up and noticed that her body had already decayed to a skeleton. So they didn't have to cut her head off.
What?
Yeah. So there's
no way that would happen that quick.
I know. So I don't know how it happened that quick, but anyway, so they pulled her skeleton up out of the grave and put it into the house. Now, apparently the story goes that they had this kind of curio cabinet in there, and they decided that they were going to stick her in the curio cabinet for whatever reason. So they have this.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know, because they wanted her to be there, I guess, with them when they had family dinners and that, so she could watch. I don't know.
Creepy.
It is
really creepy.
Bizarre. I mean, who has a real live skeleton head in their house of a deceased loved one? I mean, that's just messed up. Yeah. So they put her in the house, and the noise disappeared. Well, there was an instance where the maid, who did not believe that the head that was in there was actually the head of the sister, okay? And she pulls the head out of this curio cabinet so she could clean it, all right?
What?
Yeah.
Why is they cleaning it?
I don't know. It's a maid. Who knows? So she threw it out of the house and into a manure wagon.
Why?
I don't know, but get this. So when she throws it into the manure wagon, okay, that's going by, the horse froze and would not move until the maid took the skull and put it back in the house. So every time anybody tried to remove the skull, weird things would happen around the house. And like I said, one time there was a maid that was in there, and she didn't think any of the stuff was true, and she pulled it out, and you could hear screaming, really loud screaming, all throughout the house. And she hid the skull from the sisters because she thought it wasn't real. Well, the screaming wouldn't stop, isn't going to stop until she gets her head put back in the curio cabinet, obviously. So they had to have the maid go around and find where she put the stupid skull and put it back in there. And guess what? All the noises stopped. They didn't have any more noises. And today, once that got removed, they don't know where it is today. It's believed that they finally buried it inside the walls like the sister had asked for, but nobody knows. Nobody's seen it.
Oh, that's weird.
Yep. So that's there. Like I said, there is a lot more, and I'm not going to go into all of it. There's like UFOs and all that, and maybe that's something we can unwrap for another day. But I figured there was enough with, the werewolves and the ley lines and the girl with the missing head that screams when she's not where she's supposed to be, and all the other stuff that was and the dragon that was going on in that area. But yeah, it's a lot of intense stuff happens there still to this day. But that's all I have. Triangle area there. So remember, people, we'd like to hear stories from you guys out there. So if anybody has
if you guys have any cool stories.
Yeah, if you have any cool stories, please email them to us. We'll read them online. We'll do like a little segment and we'll read them online. We don't care. Or if you have an idea.
Or message it to us on Instagram.
Yeah, message us on Instagram.
If that's easier. Sometimes it's easier.
And or if you have an idea of something we could do, we'll definitely like to. Yeah, we'd like to hear from you, please. We're always interested to hear what people have to say.
Yeah, if you enjoyed our podcast today, follow us on Instagram at Two Scaredy Cats Podcast. And please be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It really helps the show get discovered. And tune in 2 weeks for a new episode. And to all our scaredy cats and kittens out there, remember, curiosity killed these two scaredy cats.